Hello, welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and here we are going to be looking at the final video in the High Elf faction focus of the Warhammer the Old World. We're going to be taking a look at the missing units, i.e. these are units that were either in previous army books or were in the lore, either in stories or in, more importantly, Total Warhammer 3 as a video game. The reason I think that one's quite important is because the models are developed, as in the graphical model. So you have how the unit would look, you have how the unit would fight, some of the stats within that game. So I think that's important to see how that would then look potentially on the tabletop if it was translated. So let's take a look. So first off, you've got the Lothern Sea Helm and the Anointed of Azurian. Well, they were actual character entries, and in fact, as was the Lore Master of Hoeth. And they are actually, the miniatures exist for all of those, but you can make them with Elven honours. All three of those can be made with Elven honours. The Lore Master, the Sea Guard one, the Anointed one, can all be made with Elven honours, which is basically take a noble and you give them that Elven honour, and essentially they become the same. But you can see the Lore Master of Hoeth there, that's him on the right-hand side. That was his miniature. So, you know, if you give him that Lore Master, you can actually give yourself a noble who actually has a miniature that's tailored specifically for it. If you buy a Phoenix, you get an Anointed of Azurian who can either ride the Phoenix or go on foot. It's already there. The Lothern Sea Helm is the one that I think at the moment is not that easy to find, but is definitely there. Next up are Rangers. So Rangers are in Total Warhammer. It's a core unit, and they're a dual-wield melee infantry. So they're kind of like a bit more like Shadow Warriors with no bows. They're better at fighting in combat than the Spearmen, which tend to be that sort of, you know, more defensive infantry unit. So I think they could be interesting to give a different sort of core unit feel to the standard Elven Spearmen and Archers. You've got Silverin Guard. So these are interesting. This is, again, Total Warhammer. They are resistant to magic. So they've got armour that's resistant to magic. They do come with heavy armour and spears. So again, you're sort of getting that bit more durability. So slightly, again, different because they've got that focus on being resistant to magic and stuff. So they are different from your normal spearmen. You've got Athel Tamar of Faith Bearers. So this again, Total Warhammer. So this is heavy armor with swords and frenzy. So that's going to be again a little bit different because the Rangers tend to be this lightly armored unit running around with their dual wielding swords, whereas the Athel Tamar of Faith Bearers, it's heavier armor, but they are frenzied. So I think that's different. You've got Gate Guard. They're very similar to Lothern Sea Guard. They have heavy armor and longbows, as opposed to the light armor and short bows. Or war bows, I should say. That's again different. They're designed to actually work the gates in Ulthuan. Shadow Walkers. Now they're actually a full unit in Total Warhammer, but currently they're listed as the unit leaders for Shadow Warriors in Warhammer the Old World. So I don't actually see us getting a unit of Shadow Walkers. I'm not quite sure there's a place for them either. Spire Guard of Tor of Res. They're the same as Lothern Sea Guard, but unbreakable. So again, I'm not sure the value of these ones. Sentinels of Astaril, same as Elven Archers, but with greater range and more AP. Again, is there value in that? Skyhawks, which is a hybrid Elven Archers who dual wield with hand weapons. And you kind of go, they're interesting, but how different are they from Shadow Warriors? They're basically kind of non-Nagarythe Shadow Warriors in a way. Knights of Tor Gavel, that could be interesting. This is a Total Warhammer unit, and this is Knights riding Griffins. Because of the way the Griffin is as a monster, I don't think it's going to be suitable for the old world. Looks cool. I just don't think that because of how powerful Griffins are, that a whole unit of them with Knights riding them is going to be suitable. Ithilmar Chariot. So basically it's a heavy chariot version of the Tyrannok Chariot. That definitely could have value because it would be different from the War Lion, but you need to give the War Lion and the Ithilmar a very distinct separate role. and I think you kind of have a little bit of that because Tyrannot chariots are unit ones. But if you look at Warriors of Chaos, for example, they've got a heavy chariot and then they've got the Gore Beast chariot. So, different mount different mounts essentially are pulling the chariot itself. So there could be something in that with the Ithilmar chariots. War Lions of Cray, so you've got the Lion chariot where you can have War Lions on their own. I think that is really interesting and definitely should be a consideration for making onto the tabletop as a full unit of War Lions. An Arcane Phoenix, so it's similar to the other Phoenixes, but this one's magically attuned. Yeah, could do that. I don't see any reason why you couldn't have that. I mean, basically, you just take the existing Phoenix and paint them up differently. So you could have an Arcane Phoenix in there quite easily. And the final one there, which is in which is an option, is a Merworm. It's actually a Forge World monster. And one of the things I think could be interesting is there were all these Forge World monsters that came out. There are some that kind of fit better than with other factions. I think of all the monsters in there, the Merworm, I think, could be interesting to be attached to the High Elves, particularly if you're going for that sort of Lothern sea type of list. I think that could be quite interesting. So, those are the missing units. We've got a picture of the Merworm there. It's a pretty cool looking miniature. That could be, gives you a slightly different flavour than just the standard stuff. So there's lots there. A lot of it comes out of Total Warhammer. A lot of it's specific to Tour of Rest too. And I think there's definitely some overlap. So I would say a bunch of those things don't have good value in there. And we can see the characters. You can actually already make those characters using the Elven Honours. But I think there's some different stuff in there. The Magic Resistant Silvering Guard, the Rangers, for example. I think the Gate Guard are interesting because that's quite a different thing. I think Ithilmar Chariots. I think the War Lions definitely could be really interesting. But there you go. Those are the current missing units. Then we look at previous army books and also when we look at Total Warhammer as it is today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed this faction focus. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. If you want to see another faction focus, hit the subscribe button. It's really important. Thank you for that in advance. It's free for you to do. It takes a few seconds. Next up, the plan is to do the Wood Elves, and that will wrap up the Forces of Fantasy book, and then we'll be moving on to take a look at Orcs and Goblins, Warriors of Chaos, Tomb Kings, and so on. And we'll finish that book before moving on to the legendary factions, which are still to come as well. So still lots more content to come. Keep an eye out for it. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.